Hey, this is Ansley, and I'm out in the Germain Robin cellar, and I'm talking a little bit today about a product we're in the middle of developing right now, which is a cranberry citron vodka under DSPCA 162 vodka. And the way it came about was this. We have this beautiful liqueur that we get from Steve McCarthy up in Clear Creek in Oregon that we use in the St. Nick. Everybody, every time they taste it, God, we should be able to do something else with this. And Devin Kane had the idea sitting at home, says, I'm going to try and put it into one of our vodkas. And first he tried the straight, but then when he put it into the citron, you know, there's this magic moment when you know you've nailed something, and that was it. This is going to be a beautiful product. But anyway, so now developing the product, that was about 9 months ago, and he started working on it seriously about 6 months ago. And the first thing to do was sort of like try various levels of, you know, blending the liqueur into the citron vodka. But then also there was an adjustment we had to make, which was putting a little citric acid into it to sort of counteract the heaviness of the, you know, liqueur is very thick and sort of like, and to get that absolutely right. And then about, you remember about 2 weeks ago I was out here and we had a whole bunch of little 200 ml bottles with, you know, 8 different variations on citric acid trying to pick the right one. We spent, you know, some weeks on that. And the most recent thing here is to sort of, okay, what's the actual proportion of liqueur to vodka going to be in the final blend? And this is 3.5, 5, and 7.5%. But to create this blend, the first thing he had to do was take the liqueur and dilute it 50% with citron vodka, so we didn't get this heavy sedimentation at the bottom. You know, if you mix it 50-50, then the liqueur will throw all its sediment and leave something. He made a carboy of it, 5 gallons, so that we had 5 gallons of blend to play with. And then he prepared these bottles. And it was really clear when we were tasting it that the best balance was the 5%. More than that, we started getting something that there was so much liqueur in it that it allowed, it made the citron, the subtleness, the citron is very subtle flavor and very delicate. And we started losing it at more than 5%. So 5% is it. But then there's another note that I want to point out here. If you look at the 3 of them, this one, the 7.5%, it's so dark that I and a couple of other people we were showing this to, it looked, you know, looked a little artificial, like we were adding some food coloring to it or something to make it look like cranberry, like, you know, practically everybody else in the world does. And certainly anybody who isn't a craft distiller, I mean, they're not going to start from zero and do all this work. They're just going to buy some cranberry flavoring and add it to it and then put some food coloring in to make it look dark. And, you know, everybody knows we don't do that, but we don't want anybody to even think that we might be doing that. So it was the 5%. Now Devin will go to work cleaning this up, getting the balance absolutely straight. This is March. He started working on this last July. We'll have this ready for bottling sometime in August, and we'll let it sit for 6 weeks and start selling it in October.
For the past 9 months, I've been working on the creation of a cranberry vodka, and I've been working with different percentages of cranberry into a citron vodka to get a flavor profile and a color that we like.
And this 7.5%, you know, looks suspiciously dark. We don't want people even thinking that we're using artificial ingredients. How come you're not buying our stuff?
That's going to be better.
All right.
All right.
You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so this is 150 gallons of the St. Nick Fluid Dynamics aged cocktail that we've got sitting here getting ready to bottle it. And I love this barrel. This is one of 6 we got in cognac back in 1982, 83 when they came on the market. They're absolutely enormous. This is not a standard size. I think it's like probably a 5 or 600 liter barrel. And it's perfect. It's probably 150 years old. And it's been used forever. So we're trying to, we don't need this thing to pick up more oak. And you know, if we have a choice between putting the cocktail in oak or in stainless steel, the answer of course is oak. You know, and so here's this absolutely beautiful antique being used for something that, you know, 150 years after it was made. Nobody has barrels like this. Now, how come you're not buying our stuff? Hey, I'm Ansley Cole, and I'm out in the Germain Robin aging cellar, and This right here, there's 3 of them right here, is about a 330-gallon stainless steel tote. These are used for transporting liquids on the back of semis. And they're just extraordinarily useful because, I mean, 330 gallons is a very useful size. I mean, we want to keep all our stuff segregated as much as possible so they have time to develop complexity and, you know, blending only sort of when we have to. And, you know, we use these for, let's say, the infusion works. We use this, Crispin uses them for his infusions for the vodka and for the gin. Just enormously useful. And, you know, they have to be type 316 stainless steel, so they stand up to strong alcohol, and that makes them very scarce. Usually most of them are 308 stainless steel, which will give flavor to strong alcohol. And I looked for these for about 3 months, and I ended up talking to this guy in Long Island who said, I said, hey, you've got 316 totes. And he says, yeah, I do. I said, well, what do you want? He says, one of them is like $1,400. I said, how many do you have? He says, 18. I said, how much do you want for all 18? I thought he was going to fall out of his chair. I thought I was going to hear this crash on the phone. But, you know, we did it because it's just every single one of the things we do, if we don't do it absolutely perfectly, which this allows us to do in small quantity, we feel like we're making a mistake. These things are great. Hey, this is one of 18 stainless steel totes made out of 316 stainless steel, so they don't flavor the product. These are enormously useful. Who's got 18 of these things? We do. It means everything we do, we can keep segregated up until the last moment, so it's absolutely perfect. How come you're not buying our stuff? Hey, you see that carboy? That's got about 2 gallons of the 87 Pinot Noir that we use to make the to bottle as barrel 351, and it's from the Welsh Vineyard, 1987. The H means that it's been diluted down to bottling proof, and we're going to keep it in that carboy so it doesn't evaporate anymore. We'll probably keep it for another 25 years so that we can bottle it when it's 50 years old, and it'll be just, you know, absolutely exquisite. How come you're not buying our stuff? Okay, this is one of a number of barrels that we've got holding vermouth that we get from Andy Quaddy, and who makes these beautiful vermouths, and we use them to blend into our aged cocktail recipes and fluid dynamics. But we buy it from them in bulk, and then we want to put it away for 6 months or a year in American oak, so it develops all this inner richness and complexity and mellowness, so that, you know, it just makes the aged cocktails even better. How come you're not buying our stuff?
We're infusing tangerines from John and Greg Kirkpatrick in the Central Valley, and they suggested to us that we used a juice fruit, and we found that this is giving us a much deeper flavor and richer profile than other macerations that we're doing.
Hey, how come you're not buying our stuff? Hey, I'm Ansley, and I'm out in the Germain Robin Aging Cellar, and right here are a bunch of totes containing the infusions that we use for the DSPCA 162 vodka. And this particular tote is a blend of Tangelo and Tangerine. And why do we use Tangelo? Tangelos are bitter, so we can only use a little of it, but that gives a nice little complexity. But mainly it's because Tangelos just have this body that plays off against the sort of like delicacy of Tangerine.
One of the good things about using juice fruit is that we get to keep our percentage of alcohol in our maceration high, and that leads to a lot less oxidation over time.
So how come you're not buying our stuff?
Natural citron is this huge fruit that is mostly pith. So to eliminate the pith and the soapiness from my vodka, I only use citron peels in my maceration.
So how come you're not buying our stuff?
One of the reasons why our straight vodka is coming out so well is we are making a Viognier grape vodka out of a double distillation on this still and finishing on a Holstein and then blending that with our vodka.
How come you're not buying our stuff? I'm Ansley. I'm out at the Germain Robin Distillery, and I want to talk a little bit about what we do to make the straight vodka. We use exactly the same grapes and the same wine that we use to make the brandy. These are very high quality grapes. They cost us about $2,000 a ton, old vine Viognier. And then Devin runs them by, he double distills the wine on this, on our cognac still, which takes it up to about 70% alcohol. And to go into vodka, if we're going to call it vodka, it has to be 95%. So he takes the resulting 70% alcohol and brings it up to 95% on the Holstein.
So what I'm doing with the Viognier that we use for the vodka as far as process goes is I'm putting the wine into the still and I'm turning that still's fire on and getting it to boil, and then I'm going to my first cooking temperature. And usually as a brandy still goes, we're bumping up every single hour to keep a certain flow going off the still. Well, I work exactly opposite than that. I set my fire to a certain point and I actually work backwards, and I keep my percentage really, really high. And so when I find my Bruis tank at the end and I go take a measurement, I'm above 60%. Then I take that Bruis, that's higher percentage than almost some of, you know, our tails and other things we have from our second runs, and I put that into the still and I do the same process again. And what I do is I put the fire up to a certain point and I walk it backwards, and in one cut from the still I can get 900 liters or so of something around 80%. Now that 80% I can take to the Holstein, and with much less work from 70 I can push it into a 95 to 96%. Sometimes off a still like this I've had a final O to V count of up to 86%. And that last final run can take up to 36 hours to do, and it just never gets turned up. It gets turned on and just set and watched for 2 or 3 days. Hi, I'm Devin Kane, and today we're in the big still room in the Jermaine Robin facility out in Redwood Valley, and I'm going to talk to you guys about how I'm doing the Viognier process from wine into vodka. And I'm doing it very different than brandy or whiskey or anything like that. And the main difference is I'm putting my wine in and I'm getting my wine up to boil. And I go to my first cooking temperature, and instead of every hour bumping up my temperature like a brandy still and pushing my Bruis into my Bruis tank, what I'm doing is I'm actually going into a mid-range fire from where I'd be in a run, and I'm backing it down every single hour. And what that does is it never gets the water over the still, so my Bruis, instead of being 20–25%, is 65% after my very first run. That run can take 14, 15, 20 hours. My second run will be like that Bruis at 65%, added back to the still all the way up to, you know, 550, 600 gallon pot, and I'll leave a nice amount of shoulder there so that the top of the shoulder and the onion all make a shape that's helping me get water down into the still, helping me condense the bigger molecules back down. On top of that, not filling it as full, I'm also in my second run backing the fire off instead of turning it up. And so every hour, as that percentage would go down naturally, I back my fire down so that my percentage stays the same, and I hover about 90%, 85%, and then by the time I get down to about 70%, I do my cut. And what that enables me to do is catch a tails tank that is over 65% again, and it makes it so that my tank of O to V is, you know, more than probably 80% when I'm done. The highest I've ever gotten is 85, and I've never really seen it higher than 86. But the whole point of all of that process is when I'm finally going into the Holstein, I want to put as little liquid in there as possible. I want to eliminate as much water as I can. And so doing these nice slow runs in these big stills are extracting huge amounts of flavor and letting us just have the amount of material we need to maximize our efficiency in the Holstein stills. Part of using a column still is understanding the environment inside of the pot, and having a motor in there lets us agitate the liquid. And the way these work is we are simmering instead of boiling, so we have much less natural action when it comes to heating the liquid. The top inch and 2 inches of the liquid, the alcohol can dissolve out of it really quick into the atmosphere, into the pot. And so by stirring it, we are agitating the liquid and bringing the surface level up in alcohol percentage so that the alcohol keeps evaporating off of it and we don't get water in the whole entire process. So today we're looking at a small Holstein still, and we're going to talk about how it works in functionality. And what we do is we put a liquid into the pot that has an alcohol percentage that we're trying to extract. And there's water in the basin, and that heats up, so there's no fire here. This is an electric apparatus. The steam, which is generated from that liquid and the electricity, is partially alcohol and water, and that goes through our onion. The onion condenses out the first part of the water that we don't want. The steam's pushed through the pipe into our column. It goes into the first part of our column, which contains our plates. Our plates are adjustable, and we can either have them open or closed, and closed plates equals more alcohol at the end. So we have our closed plate system when we're going for our 95%. Above that, we have our pre-condenser, and this is the most important part of the still. It takes water from the condenser and runs it through part of this column, and it really condenses out most of the water that you're going to have a problem with. That would take you anywhere below 80%, like 75 to 80%. All of a sudden, you turn this on, you're at 95%. It can be that drastic of a jump. And then up here we have an aromatic plate, and this allows you to become a more neutral spirit or a more aromatic spirit. Some people really want a neutral spirit when they're making vodka, no flavor at all. When I'm making the Viognier, I actually leave this open so I extract more flavor from the product itself. Then when the steam finishes out this product and we come down through this tube, we hit this condenser, we are just turning this hot steam into liquid, and then we are catching it at the end. And when the final container is done, we can take the pot and we can convert any percentage of liquid in that pot, 10% alcohol, 20% alcohol, all the way up to 90% alcohol every time. One of the disadvantages to using the condenser on a Holstein still is that it's really worried about the temperature of the water leaving the condenser versus the temperature of the product leaving the condenser. Whenever I run, I put my thermometer right in here and spend a lot of time paying attention to the temperature of the condensate.
Okay, so how come you're not buying our stuff?